Hi everyone, my name is Nick Reagan and I'm a graduate student in historical archaeology at the University of West Florida. I graduated from the University of Alabama with a focus in interdisciplinary humanities including anthropology and religious studies. I have 2 additional years of academic work at the graduate level at UWF in biocultural anthropology and animal behavior. My current thesis is entitled Metal to Machinations, Nail Production Refinement as an Analog to the Technological Means of Social Control in Pensacola, Florida, 1559 to 1821. I'm studying architectural nails from 3 historical period archaeological sites, the Luna settlement of 1559 to 1561, the Spanish Presidio, Santa Maria de Galve, 1698 to 1719, and the Spring Lake Sawmill Complex, 1810 to 1815. My methods include historical document research, X-ray fluorescence for elemental analysis, and microscopic metal grain analysis. Changes in nail morphology over time relate to changes in production methods over time. These I link to changing active social controls in the frontier setting utilizing actor network theory, a so-called object-oriented ontology, which I'll be talking about in this presentation. So I want to present to you, Are We Lava Monsters? Anthropologies of Ontological Uncertainty in the New Dragon Age. This talk came about somewhat haphazardly after an ongoing conversation I've had with my longtime friend Nick. He and I walk together for exercise every morning. One morning he said to me as we were shooting the breeze, "You know we're basically lava monsters, right?" This, I realized, can be a very profound question. I'll present the astounding logical reasoning of how he got to that point momentarily. As an actor network theorist, material philosophy is at the front and center of how I approach things like artifacts in the archaeological record and how I approach modern day technologies in their social contexts. Here I'll be using my friend's lava monster logic as a springboard to helping to understand ontology as a philosophical concept and how our definitions of thingness influence the work we do as anthropologists. We start with ice. The logical chain starts from the premise that ice is essentially a rock. When it melts, it becomes water, which then vaporizes when heated to become water vapor. Our bodies are not only mostly water, but we breathe water in and out of our lungs. We depend on water. This leads to a recognition that lava also starts as a rock. Just like ice, when it's heated, it flows like a liquid. Likewise, when superheated, it can become a gas, a process called sublimation, as on the exoplanet Mustafar K2141b, where clouds are likely made of superheated rock and lava falls as rain. When cooled again, like water, lava becomes a solid rock once more. The crux of the argument is that because water and lava have similar properties, they could essentially be thought of as the same thing. In anthropology, our theoretical framings and concepts have influenced what we study as anthropologists, what we do, how we understand our subject matter, and the conclusion we draw from our data. Here you see the various subdisciplines of anthropology and many of the theoretical orientations that we employ. There's not just one anthropology, there are many anthropologies, plural. There is theoretical and methodological diversity, from very old ways of understanding the human condition to brand new ontologies that totally rearrange what we do and how we understand people. It's a very broad discipline. You can also see some images I got from AI image generation software when I asked it to produce images of what anthropology looks like. So what does anthropology have to do with whether we're lava monsters? Well, pretty much everything. Ontology is a big philosophical word that simply asks, what does it mean to be a thing? What is a thing, and how do things or bodies relate to other things to produce reality? Things have properties or qualities. This thing, for example, has existence on the screen. It's circular in shape, and it's blue in color. My friend's lava monster argument rests on an ontological proposition related to the properties of things. Both water and lava are solid when cold. Both are liquid when heated. Both gasify when superheated. These are similar bodily properties of water and lava, respectively. Now, different things have different properties or qualities. We can think of individuated bodies as interacted while maintaining their essential properties, as in the non-hybridized ontology on the left. We can also conceive of things, here we'll call them actors because they're bodies which interact with other bodies, joining together when they interact to create a new thing, as in the hybridized ontology on the right. Associations and interactions between bodies, according to object-oriented ontologies like actor network theory, cease being separate things and become something else, a new thing. Lava monster logic rests on bodily relations making something new, if parallel. Water and lava have solidity in the face of other bodies when cold. They have liquidity in relation to other bodies when heated. And they have permeability or lack of resistance to other bodies when gaseous. These are conceptual classifications we put on water and lava based on their properties as bodies interacting with other bodies. Classifications are also important in anthropology. Traditionally, we've often created a classificatory conceptual divide between the non-human nature and the human culture. This is an ontological divide that has resulted in an oversimplification of the way we conceive the world, an existential chasm between human and non-human objects. But is it an accurate categorization? Hybridizing ontologies don't make a basic ontological distinction between humans and non-humans. All are actors interacting through diverse bodily associations. Instead of a bifurcated model of reality, as in the last example, hybridized models of reality are conceived of as network-like structures with fuzzy, permeable edges, if we can even call them edges, there really aren't any. New things are constantly being created through time due to shifting interactions. The classificatory models we use have far-reaching consequences for the anthropology we do. The ways we categorize reality influence how we understand ourselves and the world around us. It's even written into our language. See how I couldn't avoid speaking of us as distinct from the world? Our definitions, rooted in our ontologies, set the conceptual boundaries under which we operate as academics. In the case of lava monsters, properties define a thing. Water and lava share the same properties. If ice is rock, then water is lava. We breathe water and need it for survival. Hence, we are lava monsters. But of course, water-lava ontology is more complicated than that, isn't it? Ice is composed of dihydrous oxide. Lava is composed of minerals like granite. Water flows at 32 degrees Fahrenheit at sea level, whereas lava flows at 1300 degrees Fahrenheit. We need water for bodily functions, whereas lava is very bad for our bodies. We actually breathe water vapor. We can't breathe lava. Finally, we can die by drowning in water without being incinerated, while we would definitely die by burning up if we fell into lava. So we see that ontologies and how we understand the properties of things and their relations can become a source of uncertainty. Is water lava or is it not? It depends. The same uncertainties are introduced in anthropology and science generally. How do we classify a thing? What is the meaning of a group of things or people? What are the implications if we think of objects as actors? What even is a fact if our fundamental ontologies vary? In anthropology and social sciences generally, we talk of society and culture as if they're well-defined, real-world categorical structures with solid edges and boundaries, as in the image of ancient Egyptian society on the left. Now, this is certainly an oversimplification. Any depiction of a whole human group as an image will be. But this simplistic conceptualization still holds sway in modern anthropology. We conceive of a culture versus a different culture, and oftentimes well-defined social hierarchies, organizations, and groups of people with predominantly human-centric and unidirectional social forces flowing through them to create cultural order. But this is yet another consequence of differing theoretical ontologies. This is another conceptual chasm between object-oriented and human-oriented ontologies. We see on the right a very different way to conceive interactions of body-object actors, which includes humans and non-humans. It's a mess, really. It's highly complex with multiple nodes and associations. There are no true edges and no truly well-defined structure per se. Social forces don't operate to shape a unitary culture because there are no such social forces. There are only actors and their multitudinous associations, which in aggregate form what we call society or culture, hence the quotation marks when I refer to them. Culture is just a categorical concept in actor network theory and other object-oriented ontologies. While actor network theory grew out of colleges of sociology and science and technology studies, anthropology has had a figure proposing a similar ontological path within archaeological theory. I'm speaking here of the British-American archaeologist Ian Hodder, whose ontology-based human object theory is something he calls entanglement. There are some differences in Hodder's approach with other object-oriented ontologies that I won't go into here. But suffice it to say, Hodder's web-like entanglements and actor networks are essentially the same way of understanding human-non-human interactions. Moreover, Hodder refers to entanglements as creating dependence. He says we've come to become dependent on things for our very survival, the ever-complexifying nature of which he sees as a problematic situation. On the left here, you can see his study of clay-human interactions at Çatalhöyük in Turkey, and on the right, the cover of his book, where entanglements are represented as a giant spider's web. So we see that ontologies, how we think of things and their interactions, have far-reaching consequences for how anthropology may be done, and even our ethical stance toward the modern world, as with Hodder. With ontology and what I mean by anthropology is better explained, I can move on to what I mean by the new dragon age, which I propose we're currently in the beginnings of. Of course, dragons were a much referenced mythical creature centuries ago. If movies are to be believed, they introduced great fear and uncertainty to populations, much as object-oriented ontologies have induced in anthropology today. It didn't matter then they weren't literally real, because people acted as if they were. This was Middle Ages dragon ontology at work. Today, dragons have returned in a very physical way through new technologies. Drone shows like the one on the right use thousands of drones to create new dragons in the sky that can fly and even breathe fire. If one were to time travel a Dark Ages European to today, they might believe such a technological feat was a real, live dragon. Today there are dragons of another kind. New technologies have also allowed for the spread of concepts of equally fantastical natures, despite evidence to the contrary. The flat earth belief and the conspiracy theory that lizard people control the world governments, for example. These beliefs create fear, trepidation, and uncertainty in countless people who truly believe in these new dragons. The great science communicator Carl Sagan said in his book, The Demon-Haunted World, Science as a Candle in the Dark, that, quote, I have a foreboding of an America in my children's or grandchildren's time, when the United States is a service and information economy, when clutching our crystals and nervously consulting our horoscopes, our critical faculties in decline, unable to distinguish between what feels good and what's true, we slide almost without noticing back into superstition and darkness, end quote. Yet dragons are no longer just conceptual. Advancing technologies like artificial intelligence and robotics will no doubt create thinking, moving dragons. When dragon technology is close enough to what we think the real world thing would be, what would be the difference? Perhaps future villagers will also cower at the fear of real dragons flying overhead. We should think about what it means for a dragon to be real, and in anthropology, what it means for a culture to be real. What does an anthropology of the radically diverging object-oriented ontologies look like? What is culture and what are the ramifications for anthropology? On the left is an image of the most manufactured object in history, the CMOS computer transistor, of which over 13 trillion and counting have been manufactured on computer chips. As an object, just like the projectile point on the right, it was conceived, manufactured, and let loose to act in the world. And we should also think of behaviors like singing and ideas as actors shaping our ever-complicating human, non-human networks today and into the future. So, back to the original question, are we lava monsters? The answer is, as with all things, it depends. The question I want to leave you with is this. Are we okay with uncertainty? The rise of object-oriented ontologies in anthropology, technology, and even in areas as far removed as theology is disrupting theoretical hegemonies and causing growing uncertainty, theoretically and existentially. Do we slay these monsters in the new dragon age, or do we find a way to coexist? Perhaps we'll defeat them with lava, or perhaps we'll realize we have been the dragons all along. And finally, I'd like to leave you with a list of recommended readings if you have interest in this topic. Thank you very much.